Ladies and gentlemen, how you all doing? This is Con Ulrich.
This is Rangru, hello, hello, hello.
And folks, we are back. And Orshi East over here, taking a look at some other monthly action. So who do we have?
Left hand side in the blue, we have Paladin Lepa playing Roma Rapana, we have a flatline income. Right hand side in red, we have Jaapaasa playing as 126 Mountain, with a Maverick income.
I'm sorry, I'm fascinated right now by the fact that we have a 406 behind a Boston, and I would say it's been such a long time for this. Kind of amazing to see this actually. The turret on one engaging. Yeah, this is a wet noodle contest that ends up with actually one of those little silly noodles going down. Boston is dead.
Yeah, gonna be hitting the ground quite hard here, and we're seeing pretty heavy investment, a decent sort of investment from both sides. Pushing into the center, anti-tank rifles leading the charge, support guns, infantry guns, light tanks. Really the whole kit and cadoodle.
Yes, indeed. Kind of funny, I'm looking at this right now. I kind of wonder to a certain extent, the Lantes versus the Gorno PTRSs. I mean, if they get close enough, I kind of have to give it to the Lantes, but I feel like the PTRSs, of course, have all that extra fire support, and, well, the Lantes go down pretty quickly.
Yeah, and we're seeing pretty heavy investment as well down south from Jaapaasa to clear out the forest, and he does have a pretty nasty force, yeah, and of course, especially in this map, and especially both sides, being able to secure the forest, got it down, is always a good play.
Now, meanwhile, up top, north, we actually have ourselves a Blenheim coming on in, looking to take out that Maxim. If he does so, I'm not saying it's really the whole Finn's flank to lose, but they are bringing in some extra, I hesitate to call it armored support. They're bringing some extra vehicles to potentially do some kind of light fire support here.
Yeah, he really needs a bit more infantry if he wants to make that push happen. He does have some troops in the nearby forest, but not enough to really follow up after that Blenheim bombing.
Yeah, but I think maybe one of the things, though, too, is just pressure the Maxim. Technically, the Maxim is at least, let's say, comparable to what I've got there. And forgive me as I dive right back to the center. Jakar is getting hammered by the 50 mil and snipers and BT7 and the 76-2. So it's now light tanks to the rescue, which is a weird thing to think that the T-26 is actually a better tank than those BTs that it's going up against.
Yeah, actually being able to get the kills, and one of the few times where the Finns actually have a rather equal tank engagement. But the main thing is the Soviets here just have a better fire support base with the support guns. And it's not so much fire support base, because also the Finns have a lot of machine guns. He just is in a better location to utilize his fire support, and really the central side has just turned into an absolute stalemate, because you're just going to get blapped if you try to push.
Unfortunately, down south, it seems that Paladin Lepa is a little more thin-skinned, as we do see a lot of Gornos and Moskai Otopachiki moving on in, and this 50 mil mortar is going to get hammered before it gets anywhere close. It's a very nice pickup for the Russians.
Yeah, and this should be pretty easy for Jasper to hold, especially as the Finns lack any sort of long-range anti-tank fire support, etc. It's just going to be very difficult for them to cross that big open field and just get back into that forest. I mean, we're seeing already so some Gornos BTs are shutting down at reinforcement grave.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, isn't it? If the Finns, of course, always knife fighty. The Gornos, though, good enough that they can keep things kind of a little friskier, especially over an open ground, that they will be able to very shortly.
Yeah, the Gornos are also pretty, like, utilitarian, because they do have a pretty Gucci DT machine gun, lots of semi-autos. They work well, CQC, and longest range as well. And also just a beefy scrotch, like, very good reason why the Mountain Division can really go toe-to-toe for Roma Rapana, because they just have quality infantry like with the Finns.
We could ask for anything more on that one, to be fair. Now, I will say, curiously enough, once B hits, we are going to see ourselves some Lees, and, you know, I have a soft spot in my heart for the Lee, the same way that the Lee has a soft spot in the skin. But it's such a crazy thing to wait. T-26s continue to dominate. Jeez, I'm not going to say this is going to turn the flank in the south, but the T-26s might be just beefy enough to push back the Finns. I'm not gonna, sorry, to push back the Soviets, I'm not gonna say it's gonna be easy, but that might be the only way they get back in here.
Yeah, it's a pretty, like, desperate, like, rebind to trying to retake this, southern side. He's also got the support guns being brought in. I think what he's just trying to do, set up at Firebase with the very limited long-range fire support he has. Just try to knock out the edge of the forest so then he can get back deep into it.
That's not going to be the case. Lanti's picking up one of those reinforcements in the meantime. We are seeing another. Blenheim comes in. He's dropping bombs on that kind of initial position. P40 looking to go and return the favor at those 6 RKs. And geez, 2 for 1.
That's a clutch hit right there. That's definitely going to buy Jasper quite a bit of time. You know, some Finns have gotten into that forest. So this isn't looking that great here for Jasper. He's going to have to recontest this forest once again, CQC style.
Exactly. Though, to be fair, the Gornstrokis in the back should be able to get the Latis as well as that Sissies. I'm not calling them Sissies, but they are very, very good at what they do. And I have to say, too, seeing the VLD, I'm sure you would know the actual designation otherwise, but it's kind of funny to see quad 7.7s.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 303, but I mean, it's just weird to see the caliber over here. Just call it a 303.
Every time you see, like, the Finnish Air Force out, it's always some weird 1930s aircraft you've never seen before just take to the skies. And you're thinking, oh, that poor pilot having to dogfight against Focke-Wulf 190s.
Or in this particular case, killing Bostons, which, you know, I'm sure there's a couple of New Yorkers out there who are definitely okay with it. But, you know, speaking of Americans, happy 4th, everybody. You know, I'm not going to say Happy Independence Day because, you know, for you history nerds out there, it was not Independence Day on July 4th at 4:06, finding its own fiery comet into the ground. But a happy 4th to you Americans out there.
It wasn't Independence Day the movie? It wasn't, like, America founded after you, like, blew up the aliens with the F-16s?
Actually, that was the day we declared we shall not go quietly into the night. That is the day we declared we shall not surrender without a fight. Yes, exactly.
That's how we fireworks.
Exactly, because the July 4th will no longer be known as just an American holiday. And, yeah, moving along, let's never talk about resurgence ever again. But speaking of resurgence, if you want to see resurgence right now, another massive, massive Finnish investment in the south. Is this a giant mistake? I think it might be.
Yeah, this is actually quite an interesting area he's trying to, like, get back into. He does actually have a decent shot, because it's only at BT7 here, and there's just so many targets. He's not going to be able to clear them out, and the T-26 is once again coming in clutch. I think he's going to be able to take it, and honestly, I don't think it's a terrible play. He's going to be able to, if he captures both flags, a 1311 on his end. It's going to be a little bit harder for him to hold the forest compared to if Jasper has to hold the forest, because he just really lacks long-range AT, and the Lees and the KV-85s can really put a pounding on you.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That to me is the issue that I think I have with this play, is that one, that road is Hell's Highway, made manifest. Two, he's splitting up 4 squads of Atsuvakis, a K-Pal Sissy, and that Lahito Junta over here, moving towards that kind of southern part of the hillside. So he's going to potentially try to swing around, but technically I would think, was at least a maximum that's going to be able to shut that down. And like you said, I mean, he doesn't have the ground fire that he needs to be successful here. Certainly not when you bring in a ZIS from the Soviet side to push back the next bombing run that happens.
Now, I'd be curious to see, because he's going to be able to clear out his forest, it seems. There's not a whole lot of Soviets left alive in there. But Reva, also maybe Jasper just won't even bother putting in pressure down south. Usually a lot of the time players just kind of ignore it once they fully lose the point. But P40 coming in once again, getting a okay bombing run, just enough to buy some time. And really at BT7 and the one Gorno squad actually holding their own quite well.
It does help when the only thing that can go and actually kill your tank is the Chikari, and he's a little bit out of range. He's going to continue being, so going to move slightly right now, but the 50 mic mortar, yeah, there we go. Keeps him at bay.
Yeah, really good micro here from Jasper, getting some rather efficient trades, even the 50 mil using some more direct fire to get some hits in. This is buying him just enough time to get some more infantry reinforcement. Let's take a look at the rest of the map real fast. Finns have actually pushed up a little bit up north. It's not a massive push, but enough to get him a flag and almost two.
Keep 2 flags, because Vatsuvaki on the front line is going to continue to hold that compound, whatever you want to call that there. And up north, congratulations, PTRS. That's going to go and pick up a couple squats as they come in, but he's a little bit in his hidey hole for the time being, so don't expect too much. But 13-11 in the meantime, you're absolutely right. The Finns are up for the moment, but we are going into where Jaapaasa over here is going to be hitting his stride.
Yeah, and it was also quite interesting seeing someone actually play flatline. Raimer is a fun division, not just because it's Finnish infantry spam, but it's a division which sort of works with all incomes, because most of the units are just so cheap. It doesn't matter. So with a flatline, it's not a terrible choice for it, because most of the time you're just spamming your Karis and really cheap, mediocre aircraft.
That's actually one thing I was trying to think about. I was like, I don't know the last time we've seen flatline work particularly well, but you're right. I do have to say though that flatline is gonna struggle, at least for this phase here. And I'm kind of wondering, is that just the way that you play this now? Is that Maverick itself, if you can conceivably get away with it? Ooh, there goes that 303. Can you conceivably get away with the idea of playing flatline consistently against the Maverick division?
Yeah, it's kind of like the, I always think it's kind of like game theory, because Maverick is sort of the go-to income to pick. So if your opponent picks Maverick, I'm not entirely familiar with how deck picking, income picking works for a tournament, but, if your opponent picks Maverick, do you try to match them with Maverick and just try to grind them out at the same time? Or do you pick, like, in this case, like a balance or flatline or V for victory, and just try to not lose in the first 20 minutes so you can come in and C phase?
Well, obviously what you do is you pick Task Force Butler, and then you pick Juggernaut.
Yes! Yes.
Down south, I would like to say that so far my earlier, let's say, criticism is somewhat vindicated here, as the Finns do hold some of the force, but I think it's more from a lack of the Soviets really trying to push, as opposed to the Finns kind of being active. And I think my biggest beef about this is not the fact that they tried to push there, but that they diluted their strength. Those 4 squads that got brought to the north on the southern slope of that hill, still sitting there.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a bit of a missed micro. Yeah, he really needed those units up into the front to help that push. Because Jasper did a fantastic job of holding that back with the very limited forces he had towards a more dire strait of that engagement. But it seems now that Mr. Lepa is a little bit more focused in the north, getting quite a bit of reinforcements. He's just happy enough to hold at least half of the forest with his very limited force, and also some rather heavy artillery.
That's true. That's true. You might say he tried to be assaulting the swing over here by going to the other flank and seeing what might be more active in that direction. Unfortunately, not great really on any one of these fronts. The center, he's getting shoved back by almost victorious Finns thrusting themselves through that arterial down the 50-yard line. And indeed, what we usually see, that grind fest in the center part of the map, is largely dead, which is shocking to me, because that's usually where everyone just kind of shouts and everyone else shouts back, and it becomes this giant rowdy mess.
Yeah, it's quite funny seeing even just rather heavy investment from both sides into fighting over the north, because yeah, the central side is a big grindy fest here. But Lepa's doing great. He still has what feels like the momentum. He's kind of dictating the plays and making the pushes, which is fantastic, considering it is not exactly his phase to be up in income.
No, it is not. We are going to see a lead down south. We're seeing another lead to the center. BT7 is just doing their thing, and a third lead to the north. So I think what we're going to see right now is Jaapaasa is kind of saying, you know what, fine. You've had your way. You're still kicking me around a bit. That's fine. I'm going to bring a breakwater on every single part of the front, and let's see what the Lees do. And not for nothing, for 40 points, the Lee's going to do exactly what he needs it to, which is be a hard body, largely, by and large, I would say, be a bit of more of a hassle for those T-26s to kind of kill, and put out a ton of anti-infantry, material. So that should work pretty well, I would think.
I definitely think the tank advantage is going to be very important here for Jaapaasa, as the T-26s are about to run out. I'm fairly certain Lepa is almost tapped out, or has tapped out all of them, and they've been pretty critical in making these initial pushes here. And the Lees, like you said, extremely cost effective. They are pretty much designed to deal with light tank spam, and even after light tank spam, they are fantastic in infantry fire support as well. So really just, top tier tank in this sort of matchup.
Kind of humorously otherwise, though, we've seen a crazy amount of Finnish Air Force kind of coming soaring over the battle space here. One of the P-40s are actually seen right now making a bombing run. Contemporary just got shot down, but he delivers his payload, and it doesn't matter how good the Finnish anti-air net is, and it's very good, apparently, 2 for 2 on this. It's still enough to kind of retard that progress.
Yeah, Jaapaasa is getting some rather important, little trades here and there. He still does not have the momentum on his side, but, those pickoffs are stopping his, front line from completely collapsing at least and buying him time. But time, once again, is not on his side. He really needs to, get an offensive going bloody somewhere. Maybe in the center might be his best play.
We got those 4 squads I was complaining about before. They have been activated. One has died, but they're going to be able to go and take that hillside here in the south. And that 203 off map, well, unfortunately, he's being brought to the wrong theater in my mind. He's going to go maybe drop a barrage or 2 on the neck. I don't know. Maybe the neck will probably be the best place for him. Although, even then, is it really worth investing one of those precious, precious resources?
Yeah. Definitely feels like Jaapaasa is a little bit all over the place. He just does not have consighted push on your air. It does seem he is starting to... Yeah, he is getting that investment in the center. Maybe he's just going to 203 the center, even though we can see if I got this and there's not a whole lot. Yeah, but that's an understandable place to put it before you do a massive Morskaya push.
And the third P-40 goes down. Geez, these Hakoten 20 mils have been absolutely brutal. I don't think they've ever been quite this effective.
Yeah, it's quite nuts, actually. It's just really showcasing that, hey, you don't just need to do 40 or 37mm gun spam to be effective. A bunch of 20 mils can still get the job done.
It certainly can. In the meantime, we are going to see that Lee kind of doing what that Lee does. He's taking shots over here by the 20 mil anti-tank gun. Anti-tank rifle, rather, excuse me. But he laughs it off. He fires more HE the other direction and takes those Brownings and just starts praying and praying.
Yeah. Got a whole lot of DACA, you could say.
We could indeed. We could certainly say it has DACA. But 13:11, 18 minutes. We're actually 2 minutes away before I would probably argue Paladin takes a delicious and I would say threatening economic advantage again.
Yeah, he'll definitely be in the driver's seat, and he still feels like he is in the driver's seat. He's still dictating the momentum. He is starting to get slowly pushed out down south. The Akari's just getting machine gunned from his BT-7s. If he only could get a couple meters closer, he could probably just bloody Panzerfaust it.
Yeah, but at the same time, the Moskaya Automachikis are not going to go and be able to get over that no man's land of the forest. It's almost a sad state of affairs when, if you peek your head out, this is a kind of queer version of World War I type tactics, where you cross that no man's land of the light forest, you get machine guns like crazy because it's just not enough cover.
Yeah, it's really the best position for both sides, just holding their side of the forest, especially for Paladin here, because he does have a rather nice DQC advantage. I'd say he's going to be bringing in a 45mm anti-tank gun, I'm guessing to try to get some snipes down the road.
Meanwhile, Jaapaasa over here, he is going to drop a 203 in the center, so expect a push in the central position. Also expect the fact there's 2 76-2s being plopped in. There's a couple of Lees. There's another 76-2 starting to put fire into there. So, yeah, I think the second you start to barrage in, it's going to be kind of brutal. We're seeing smoke getting dropped. Love this call.
I do quite like that as well. I think this is going to be pretty much make it or break it here for Jaapaasa. If he can't make his initial push work and it does get bogged down, then that puts us in a very strong position, especially on the flanks, to just hold here. And if Jaapaasa can break through in the center, there's a lot of flags he can potentially try and knock out, and he would kind of need that, considering in C phase that income you want to be trying to end in the match quickly.
Well, the mildly amusing thing here as well is that Jaapaasa has a second barrage already getting dropped. And I kind of thought this would be the more effective position for this barrage. But we are going to see the Finns are trying to rush troops to the front. And this Vakoltan 20 mils, one of them should have eyes on the western part of that town, even if only a little bit. He does. Not tons, but he does. But there's other barrages that comes in. This could cause, let's say, a spot of bother for him.
Yeah, that should knock out the fire support platforms here from Lepa. And Jaapaasa just needs to, keep getting units into his meat grinder. He's constantly buying just Gornos up the Raju, more 76 mils. He's got the smoke dropping. He is fully committed, and this is exactly how you should be doing a push.
For the Mountain Division, anyway, yes, for sure. 120 mil goes down. BT7 is charging forwards. Probably not the greatest of battle spaces for him, but when the Rangas get to the top of that hill, they're going to be met by, I would call it, a slurry of fire.
Venom dropping its payload, and gets a decent hit, but fortunately the second Rave from Moskaya have managed to get in front. And yeah, the Rangas, they're disheartened. What do you expect? They are going to get blapped from Moskaya Pahotras, which are seriously some of the... They're not Chikari, but they're still some of the best infantry in game.
Yeah, absolutely. DPs, rifles, and anti-tank materials. We did see the BT7 does go down. So, morning, if we're going to see KV-85, Paladin Lepa calls in his own barrage, and I kind of forgot that he brought one with him.
Yeah, and the nice thing as well is that plane off map as well, so it does allow him to bring in a rather emergency barrage, and this should come in pretty clutch here, as this will shut down his push. A lot of the Moskayas got caught out in the open, and it seems, yeah, especially once his barrage dropped, Lepa's to be in a pretty good position, at least so the hill doesn't completely collapse.
And that's the question, isn't it? It's just basically how long can they stand and not completely collapse. But this is going to be perfectly placed. Good lord, this is going to be perfect.
Like he has the god vision.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? Yeah. Wow, that's brutal.
Shutting down outpush in one foul swoop. He's already got the reinforcement, essentially company being brought on through, and if he can just get Yozakaris and Rangas into the town, he should be able to just hold on to what he has left of the hill.
I will say a couple of these deployment orders are very, very optimistic.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what, dude? If it works for you, it works for you. 152 really should be able to drop another barrage. But these Rangas, yeah. A couple are going to come in here. They're going to get blapped. It's really a question of how quickly they can take this territory before the Pakotas come right back in. And I think they're coming in right soon.
Yeah. We're really starting to see, Central Hill live up to its name. It's just become an absolute meat grinder now. But the Russians still have a decent amount of fire support. This next wave of Moskayas have, rather aggressive deployment, but it's working. He's getting some rather nice positions here and allowing him to at least spread out his forces a bit so they don't get completely blown up in the next off-map barrage.
The unfortunate thing for him, though, is that while he's doing all these Morskaya, Pakotas, and Gornos over here in the center, look at the north. The north is now very much a 60-40, I would argue, in favor of the Finns. And this hilltop, I don't think the mountain can continue to maintain this tempo. Not at 80 versus the 125 for the Finns.
Yeah, exactly. Main thing as well is just keeping it a trove advantage by neutralizing the north. That's buying Lepa a whole lot of time. And then once Lepa does go back to neutralize the central part of the hill, if he does manage to do that, he's going to be in a very comfortable position. I mean, down south is still just no man's land. Actually, he's going to be charging across no man's land. Because there's so much investment in the center, there's not a whole lot here to hold it, and I think Lepa has realized that.
Yeah, and for right now, actually, the fun thing, too, is that his Maxim has eyes on that 45 mil, which is beautiful. Like, you don't often see that, folks. You don't see people get having great kind of, I would almost call it indirect fire. And the Maxim's going to go down, but he's going to do his job, which is suppress that anti-tank position. And while the anti-tank position really can't be super effective, it gives time for the Morskayas to run into those Jakaris, and that's not going to be good for them.
No, he still just needs to deal with that BT-7. That's been such a anchor point in Jasper's defense. And it's just been an easy kill. It just needs a bloody Panzerfaust onto that tank. But he just can't get them into position.
Well, that's where he's dropping smoke right now. So we see the Jakari moving south. We see the other Jakari moving behind him. So this BT-7 is not long for this world. In fact, it's engaged the Jakari to his east. No, don't tell me. Oh my gosh, that other poor Jakari squad. Never mind. What kind of smoke did you just lay down? Jeez. That was worthless.
I know, right? Oh, he gets into range and finally it does go down. And that's pretty much the 7 position comfortably in control. Well, not comfortably, but mostly in control of Lepa. There's still that one Gorno on the hill, being a pain.
Well, in the middle, too, now we're going to see Jaapaasa just throw more Gornos in there, because, again, I think he's seeing, I'm not going to say the writing on the wall, but he's looking at this as like that, the Protestant Heights over here. If I lose the center, he says I lose both flanks, but he's already dropping both flanks.
Yeah, he really needs to make his center point actually work here. But, especially when you get into 26 minutes, the income advantage, starts to hurt a bit. It's not as bad compared to playing against Balance or whatnot, it's only a 45-point difference. But that can still be felt, just like all these 152mm artillery shells being felt on these rather soft, squishy Soviet bodies.
Even the Lee. Apparently, Robert E. Lee over here was not impervious to 152 dropping on his little southern head. So, and a new wave of Jakaris coming in. Even the Rengas coming in, and the Rengas, again, while they are disheartened troops, they are still pretty dang solid for what they are.
Yeah, he just needs to hold the line. That's really all he needs to do is just defend that little sliver of hill so he doesn't completely lose it. And he's doing that. He's got a defensive, beefy line here, and Jasper has just not been able to penetrate through. He actually still has a lot in the rear, and arguably I'd say at this point, he just needs to push them all up rather than these little piecemeal attacks. It's kind of like a do or die point at this point.
Oh, and very much I think right now is starting to be die. Gornos in the northern part of this, right by the neck. They're engaging and keeping a lot of those disheartened troops, well, disheartened. But unfortunately, one by one, they get pinned down. And there's so many Finns that even if you, kill one, kill two, it's the Finnish Hydra, which I never really thought was a thing that I'd be, learning about in my World War II mythology. But you strike one down and more heads pop back up. You hit kill disheartened troops and other guys with hearts decide to kind of charge on forwards. It's actually kind of terrifying.
Yeah, just classic Rhymer Rapana. You spam your Karis and all the CQC points, and yes, even the Soviet squads are, especially Gornos, are pretty good at CQC. They don't have Molotovs, and Molotov cocktails win you forest fights. And parties.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. There is one lot to get all the way to the north, by the way. He's been kind of just plinking away at guys as they go by. Apparently, no one else is dangerous enough to actually kill them. But the northern side is a single Lee, Pakoto DP, and 2 Gornos that are just not having a great day.
No. And the Lee can only really do so much.
That's true. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what he can do, because otherwise I'll get this entire video demonetized. But history aside, we are seeing artillery dropping into the center. 155 engaging and dropping rounds on top of the Gornos that you said, and I agree with you, should have been pushed forward a long time ago.
Yeah, it definitely feels like Jaapaasa overall, he did decent micro in the defense of stopping, any collapse, because neither of the sides, or southern sides now, completely collapsed. But he never had the application of force to really make a major push somewhere. He did decent in that initial central push, but he just didn't manage to bring in stuff in the rear and just have enough fire support to tip the tables, so to speak.
And honestly, I agree with that tap out on that one. I think he saw the writing on the wall, and it kind of said, it's time to collect that 9. Graham pension. KD, not terrible, but I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that both these guys are not exactly known for bringing in tons and tons of valuable equipment.
Yeah, and then looking at the kills here, one corner doing pretty good, the P40 as well, and nothing else really all that fancy, but once again, there's no real fancy units to be seen.
Blenheim's over here, acquitting themselves well. T-26 is acquitting themselves well. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So, I mean, folks, it's an open and shut idea. It's the question is how thin-skinned are you? And Paladin Lepa says, yes, I'm armored by, God wills itness, and takes home the W for today.
Yes.
But any final thoughts there, sir?
No.
Well, folks, in that case then, until next time, I'm Con Ulrich.
I'm Rangaroo, take it easy.